Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about why I switched to Linux, and I was not lying when I said I am done with Windows as my main operating system, because I deleted my entire Windows drive. I mean, you might be asking why I did that. Well, because I made a backup of it, so I should be fine as long as I just boot back into Windows and just boot into the system image. But rather than that, the other reasons why I switched from Windows to Linux is pretty self-explanatory. I made a video on this already. And if you've used Windows 11, you most likely know why. Because Microsoft is so damn incessant to push their own services down your throat to the point where it actively, obtrudes, or not obtrude you, but, just generally makes it harder for you to use the operating system. I'm not lying about that. There's sometimes, it's kind of rare, but there are some times where I boot into Windows and I log in, and then it shows the finish setting up your PC or whatever the fuck. I've already done that 3 other times. I've already seen that screen a lot, and it's because Windows keeps trying to push me, and Microsoft more specifically, keeps trying to push me to use their own services. And I keep saying, I don't want to subscribe, I don't care, please don't show me this. And it keeps doing that. And that's kind of the Windows way. I know that happened on Windows 10 as well. But I feel like they weren't nearly as incessant, at the very least, to push their own services to the point where OneDrive is on by default. Why? Nobody wants to store their shit in the cloud by default. Nobody. I have never heard anybody make a solid argument for using cloud storage as a default storage device. Everybody would rather use local storage, so why is cloud storage on by default? I know you can turn all this shit off, and I know the Windows 11 defenders will go in the comments saying, you can turn all this shit off, you can install in third party. You shouldn't need to. You shouldn't need to. This should just be off by default. Again, you shouldn't need to turn off OneDrive because it shouldn't be there as the default storage device in the first place. Why is everything stored in OneDrive by default? Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to use OneDrive as a default storage device. It is absolutely insane. But rather than that, Windows 11 also just felt slower to use than even Windows 10. And Windows 10 felt even slower to use than Windows 7. So again, it's just like this never-ending snowball of just worse optimization, worse UI, because Windows 11 has this new, sleek, modern interface that looks dog shit, with the rounded corners and all that. But also just generally, it moved a lot of shit around to advanced options or advanced properties or whatever the fuck, which is basic functions. An example is copy and paste. They made it icons for whatever reason. So if you want to see the regular copy and paste buttons like you do on Linux or on Windows 10, you have to go to advanced fucking options or whatever the fuck, and then you can see copy and paste. But by default, when you just right click, it's icons for whatever reason. And I feel like Windows 11 is the exact example of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Because it's doing everything in its power to fix what Windows 10 and Windows 7 were, but it's doing the worst job at it. It's absolutely awful. And it didn't even transition everything into this sleek new dog shit looking interface. A lot of programs are still dated. There are some things in Windows that are still from Windows 98 and Windows 7, and they just didn't update it. Again, it just feels inconsistent, not only to use, but just generally the look of it. I couldn't stand it any longer. So that's why I switched to Linux. And what operating system or OS, or not operating system because I chose Linux, but what distro did I choose? Well, CachyOS. And the main reason why is because it's good for gaming. And that's kind of it. But also because it is based on Arch Linux, which does have a lot of support around it, even though there are a lot of really annoying people in the Arch community. But a lot of people are actually helpful as well. And it does have a lot of support behind it, especially on the wikis and stuff. To the point where all the issues that I have, which are very, very minor, they aren't major in any way, but the minor issues that I've had with booting and stuff like that have mostly been resolved. I'm still trying to resolve that one issue where whenever I log in, it'll just show me this black screen for a few seconds, and then it'll show me a splash screen, which I do have turned on, by the way, for a split second, and then it boots me to the desktop. And I know it's normal for a desktop to load. I'm not getting annoyed at that. I'm just getting annoyed at the fact that it shows me a black screen, because I don't know if that should be happening by default. I mean, let me know if you've used CachyOS and you've also experienced this, or if you know of a way to turn that off or just show the splash screen for its entirety, because again, I don't know if it's supposed to just show you a black screen kind of jarringly and then the or not, yeah, the black screen and then like a splash screen for like a second, or not even a second, like a split second, and then going to the desktop. Again, it's just a little weird. It's not the biggest deal in the world because it still boots me to the desktop either way, so it's like whatever. But again, that's like the only issue that I've had that I couldn't resolve, that I still don't have a fix for. Because every other issue, minor issue that I've had, I've just found an answer for pretty easily. Big example of this is with CacheOS by default, at least when you choose systemd, which is like the default boot manager or whatever, when you like restart your PC or shut down and then boot back in, it'll give you like this 5-second countdown, and then it'll automatically choose CacheOS and then boot into it. And I couldn't find a way to turn that off until I just searched it up, and it was pretty easy to turn it off. You just have to hold minus and then capital T or shift T, and then just incrementally just keep pressing that until it reaches 0, and then now it works perfectly fine. There's no like waiting 5 seconds for it to boot into CacheOS. But then rather than that, also stretched resolution in CS2, that was kind of pixelated by default. Whenever you choose stretched resolution in CS2, it just looks really, really pixelated. But then I just went into launch options. Once you install like the gaming packages or whatever with CacheOS, as long as you have, I think it's called like game scope or something like that, and then once you put that in the launch options, choose your resolution, you're good to go. It doesn't have that pixelated thing anymore. Again, they're very, very simple solutions, and the most complex things are just going into the terminal, at least that I've experienced right now, are just going into the terminal and copying, pasting a lot of commands, and that's kind of it. Again, it's been a pretty hassle-free experience, and overall, it's felt a lot faster to use than Windows 11, like way faster to use. Even if it's not technically like way faster, it feels faster, and I think that's the most important thing. Even if they still take like a similar amount of time to load things, just the fact that it opens quicker and it closes quicker, and just generally it doesn't feel like the operating system is actively fighting me, and it doesn't show me ads, and it doesn't push me services down my throat. The fact that it just works, it's simple and easy to use, especially with like CacheOS or like Fedora-based distros. Like, it just feels like it's not trying to fight you, like with Windows 11. It doesn't feel like it's trying to like get you to buy other things, like, again, with Windows and like Microsoft and stuff like that. But rather than that, I haven't really been experiencing that many other issues. Hell, even with Mixcraft, which only supports Windows, it works perfectly fine on Linux because of Wine, and I didn't really expect it to, because Wine is a little bit old, but it works pretty well actually. The only issue, which is like the biggest non-issue ever, but in the like system and like the bottom left, I can show you right now, but in like not in the bottom left, the bottom right, it just shows 100%. I'm not using 100% of my system. I don't know why it's showing me that. Again, it's like the most non-issue ever. It's not an issue at all, really. But again, it's just kind of weird. But rather than that, again, I haven't really been experiencing that many issues. Just generally, it's worked very, very well. And I'm not going back to Windows. I'm not going to be going back to Windows as my main operating system. I know I already said that, but I just want to make that clear. And again, once support runs out for Windows 10, I will definitely be switching to Linux. And not a probably, I definitely will. I retract that statement before saying I probably. No, I will switch to Linux because it just generally feels a lot better to use. And also just generally, again, things feel faster and it just works. Especially with CacheOS and how like easy it is to install. I know it is based on Arch, and Arch is a little scary. But again, a lot of the time, it's just simple copy and pasting commands, and that's kind of it for a lot of problems that you might have. And even then, even if it's not just as simple as copy and pasting, you can still find the answer for it pretty readily available online. So it shouldn't be that hard to fix issues if you are having any issues. And with like audio drivers and stuff like that, those have worked perfectly fine. I've not had any problems. One other minor issue I've had, which isn't like an issue like with like the operating system itself or like the distro itself, but more just Linux in general, is that game capture. There is no game capture in OBS. There is window capture, which is still nice. So if you don't really mind having to choose the window every time, you could still technically just capture a game pretty easily. But if you don't want to go through that step, I've actually found a sort of workaround for it, which is called GPU Screen Recorder. It's basically just NVIDIA Shadowplay, but better because it's open source, and it's not tied to NVIDIA, so it's automatically better. So Yeah. Again, and I think there also is a Vulkan plugin for OBS as well. So if you want to continue using OBS, you can just get a plugin, and then you'll be off to the races. Again, the beauty is with Linux is that even if you have like a minor issue or just something that was available on Linux that's not available on Linux, a lot of the time you can just find a workaround for it or just find a fix for it pretty easily online, because Linux has a very dedicated and pretty decently nice community, although some of them can be mean and pretty patronizing, especially in the Arch community, but a lot of them are still pretty chill. And again, I won't discredit the entire Arch community because there's a few bad apples that are not helpful at all and just say, go to the wiki without like linking to the spot where people are asking for a solution for something. Instead, again, they just tell you to go to the wiki. Like, that's not really that helpful. Link to the specific page where it gives me the solution instead of just saying, go to Arch Linux wiki and that's it. Like, again, that's kind of annoying. And again, I don't like how patronizing some of them can be. But again, that is not a problem with, like, the distro or the operating system. It's just a problem with the community itself. So, yeah, again, besides that, Proton has worked perfectly fine so far. No problems with that. Again, like Mixcraft, which is a Windows-only DAW, works fine in Linux. And the fact that things feel faster even though they're running through a compatibility layer because Windows 11 is so damn slow is insane. Like, it just, again, it feels faster. And that's the main reason why. And again, like with like a lot of the stupid spyware shit that's on Windows 11 that's not here, and also just generally just not trying to shove services down your throat. Those are the main reasons why I have switched to Linux, and I am never going back again to Windows 11 as my main operating system. And yeah, besides that, that is basically going to be it, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye.